What's been deemed as the hottest decade is almost over, but that doesn't mean an end to the global climate crisis. 2019 is on course to become the second or third warmest year on record. To address the climate crisis, delegates from across the world are gathering in Madrid for the 25th Conference of Parties, or COP25. For more on this, I'm joined by Professor Francis Engelbrecht from the Wits University Global Change Institute. A very good morning to you. Are we tackling this crisis in the way that we should be tackling it?
Good morning, Jane. No, unfortunately not. We are still not seeing nearly the urgency in enhanced climate action that we need across the world. 2019 was yet another year when it was very disappointing. There has been no significant decrease in carbon dioxide emissions. So right now we are steering towards exceeding those critical levels of climate change. 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming, we may reach that as early as the 2030s. In the 2040s, we may reach at a current rate of emissions 2 degrees Celsius of global warming. And these levels of global warming are known as representing dangerous climate change. They will bring a range of harmful climate change impacts across the world and also to our country, South Africa.
Why are we not taking this seriously, knowing that that's going to happen?
Well, climate change and battling climate change and global warming, of course, means that on the short term, the nations of the world need to accept some costs to their economies. There are significant economical benefits. There's a big return on investment, even still in this century. But in the short term, you need to make very, very big decisions and changes in the world's economy. So making this big shift from this large dependency on fossil fuels as the main source of energy that still remains in place globally, to the alternative forms of energy, specifically the renewables. We can just think of our own country, what a big change we need to take on to systematically change our dependency on coal, change that into a dependency on renewables. So it's a very, very big change that needs to happen in the world economies. That needs to be made to the world economies.
What can we expect? What can we look to coming out of COP25 in Munich, and considering that Donald Trump doesn't believe in this problem?
I would say there are two main things we should keep our eyes open for over the next 2 weeks. The first is whether the nations of the world will show some enhanced levels of ambition in terms of their commitment, in terms of reducing carbon dioxide emissions. And this is referred to as the so-called nationally determined contributions of each country. So in the year 2020, all the countries that are signatories of the Paris Agreement need to formally renew their commitments in terms of targets in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So it will be wonderful if there are some countries that already at this conference of the parties take the initiative in demonstrating those high levels of ambition. Over the last week, there have been some signs that such an initiative may come from countries such as France and China. The second big thing, and this is very, very important for the developing nations of the world, including Africa, is whether there will be enhanced commitments coming from this conference of the parties in terms of the funding support the developing countries of the world need, firstly, to adapt to the increasing impacts of climate change, and secondly, to grow their economies in future through renewable forms of energy rather than through the fossil fuels. Specifically, there is the so-called Green Climate Fund that needs some urgent replenishment from the developed countries, mostly the Northern Hemisphere industrialized countries. So will there be real enhanced financial commitments to support the developing world in climate change adaptation and mitigation? That is perhaps the most important aspect we as Africans should keep an eye on during this conference.